Good morning, fifth graders. Today we are going to start learning about how to create and use rules, tables, spreadsheets, and graphs to describe patterns of change and solve problems. That sounds like a lot, but when I show you what we're doing, I think it's going to be something you're going to be really successful with. So we're going to talk about function tables today. Function tables are something you've probably seen before in fourth grade. They are also known as input-output tables. So that's what you see over here, an input and an output. We use them to find patterns and follow rules. So what we're doing is we're going to think to ourselves, what do we have to do to X in order to get Y? So if we put in 1 and we get out 3, what happened to 1 to get to that 3? Or if we put in 2, what happened to that 2 in order to get out 6? When we have input and output tables, what we're going to learn in fifth grade is that we can use them to create equations using that X and that Y. So previously you'd probably heard them just referred to as input and output tables, but this year we're also going to use X and Y. So what do we do to X to get to Y? In this case, I found out that our equation in order to get Y would be that we had to multiply X times 3. I figured that out because I looked at my 1 here, and when I said to myself, well, what had to happen for 1 to get to 3? I had a couple of options. It could have been that I added 2. So maybe I could have said, well, 1 plus 2 is 3. But then what I would have to do is if that's my rule, I have to check that with my next number. So I would say, okay, is 2 plus 2 6? No, that doesn't work. So I had to try again. Well, what's a different way I could go from 1 to 3? Well, I could multiply 1 times 3. 1 times 3 is 3. And then I could try it right here. Is 2 times 3 6? It is. Is 3 times 3 9? It is. So I checked that with all of these, and I found out that if I multiply X by 3, I'm going to get Y. We're going to try some of these together in your notebook. So right now, I want you to get out your notebook, and you are going to write in your table of contents today's date, function tables, and equations. So pause the notebook, write this down. Sorry, not pause the notebook. Pause the video and write this down in your notebook. Now that you have it written down in your table of contents, turn to your next blank page and make a problem and a work side. Then I want you to go ahead and write this function table. So you're going to have an X column and a Y column with these numbers. So pause the video to make sure you have all of this written. We are going to try to figure out what equation we could use with this function table. What do we have to do to X to get to Y? So that's what we're going to be thinking right here. What do we have to do to X to get Y? So I think it helps to look at it like this. If this first X is 3, what can we do to that X to get this first Y? 5. So I'm looking at 3 and 5. Well, I know 5 is greater than 3, so maybe I could add. Well, what would I have to add? 2. So I would write 3 plus 2 equals 5. Make sure that you're writing all of this down with me. So if you need to pause the video to catch up, pause the video to make sure you're writing this as well. Once I've seen here that I could add 2 to 3 to get 5, I have to try it with the rest of my function table. So if here I have X equals 5 and I'm getting to Y, I'm going to put a 5 over here and see, well, does 5 plus 2 work? Yes, it gives me 7. That's my Y. So now I'm going to try it here. Does it work here? Is 6 plus 2 8? Or sorry, yes, is 6 plus 2 8? Yes, it is. And then I try it with my last one. Is 9 plus 2 11? Yes, it is. So I figured out here that my rule is adding 2. Now that we're in 5th grade, we are going to, instead of just write the rule, we are going to write an equation. So these numbers here, 3, 5, 6, and 9, they all represented the x column. 5, 7, 8, and 11 all represented our y. So in the place of those numbers, I could put my x and my y. Here's what I just found out. X plus 2 is going to give me y in this function table. So you can write an equation like this, but you're most commonly going to see it written like this. Y equals x plus 2. Because we want to know, what did we have to do to x, right here, x plus 2, in order to get y? Make sure you have all of this written. That is how you figure out an equation with a function table. Go ahead and draw your horizontal line because we're going to do one more together. Pause the video and write this function table. Again, we're going to be finding the equation for this function table. So we're going to think to ourselves, what do we have to do to our x to get our y? Again, I like to just start with the first one I see there. So what would I do to 35 to get to 7? 7 is smaller than 35, so I could subtract or I could divide. I'm going to try divide and see what that looks like. 35 divided by 5 is 7. I know that because I know my math facts. Now that I've seen that that works here, I'm going to try it with my next row in my function table. So does 30 divided by 5 equal 6? It does. Does 25 divided by 5 equal 5? It does. Does 20 divided by 5 equal 4? It does. Again, make sure you're writing all of this with me. Pause the video if you need to. What I just found out here is that my rule is divide by 5. Again, we are going to put that in the equation. So all of these numbers represent our x column. All of these numbers represent our y column. So what I found out is x divided by 5 is going to give me y. We can write it this way, or we can write it this way. Y equals x divided by 5. Make sure you have all of this written down. This is what you are going to do in class today, and then it is what you're going to work on in your slides as well. So you'll take a picture of your notes and put them in here, but then you're going to have different problems where you need to find the correct equation that matches the function table. So you'll have to plug in the x and see if you get the y. Same thing here. Same thing here. And here. This one you're going to have to, again, see what are you doing to the input to get to the output. But this one you're writing a rule instead of an equation. And this one you're going to have to use the equation to fill out the function table. And then you're going to see how you can use function tables with graphs to write an equation and answer questions. So you're going to have a couple of problems like that, where you're going to fill in using the table, you're going to fill in a function table and answer a question. And then you'll submit your slides when you're done.